it's a lot farther down than it looks.
This was a clip from the new Disney movie that just premiered. It's called Moana, and you'll find out why I'm starting with this clip later.
Meet Palebo, a digital nomad from Denmark on an epic journey around the world. At the age of 50, he made a bold decision. He sold everything, his house, his car, his furniture, and set out with a quest to visit every single country in the world, documenting everything along the way. This is the Radio Vagabond podcast.
This episode of the Radio Vagabond podcast is sponsored by Hotels25.com. Hotels25.com searches all top travel sites to find the best deals on more than 430,000 hotels around the world. Hotels25.com, it's best price guaranteed. I've left Hong Kong and traveled an hour by sea to a city with very similar status. Until 1999, Macau was a Portuguese colony. After that, it was handed over to the People's Republic of China. But it has the same principle as Hong Kong: one country, two systems. While I was in Hong Kong, I was trying to find a place to stay in Macau, and I found several good and cheap places on Airbnb. I showed this to my Airbnb host in Hong Kong, Andre, and he laughed and said, "Can you see this black line on the map? That's the border. The ones you have found are in China." Suddenly the options were a bit more limited, especially to the prices that I wanted to pay. Macau is quite expensive. But in the end I managed to find a nice hotel that was in fact cheaper. From the hotel room I had a wonderful view to the harbor and the iconic Macau Tower. If there's one word that you can associate with Macau, it's probably the word casino. Gambling has been legal in Macau since 1850, where the Portuguese people introduced it. Since then, Macau has been known as Monte Carlo of the Orient. And in 2007, they surpassed the Las Vegas Strip in turnover on games. In many ways, it's like Las Vegas. There are flashing neon signs, a giant mall built like Venice with canals and gondolas, and they also have an Eiffel Tower. And then there are so many big casinos. Even though there are a lot of tourists in Macau, it's not that easy getting around speaking only English. Not impossible, but compared to Hong Kong, it's much more difficult. It's a bit surprising considering how close the two regions are. But it all comes from the fact that most of the tourists are mainland Chinese people who loves gambling. I myself have never really been that compelled by gambling. I know that it's always the casinos that win in the end. No, there was something else I was much more interested in visiting, and it was right outside my window at the hotel, Macau Tower. It's possible to bungee jump from the tower. I don't really know why, but for some reason I was drawn to this. I've done bungee jumping before, a long time ago, back in '91, from a crane at an outdoor music festival in Denmark. It was 35 meters tall and one of the most scary things I've ever done. This jump here in Macau is the world's highest bungee jump. It's not 35 meters, it's 233 meters, 764 feet. What went through my head when I was making the bookings Wednesday afternoon, I don't know. And Thursday morning after breakfast, I strolled towards the tower that just got taller and taller the closer I got. As I stood by the foot of the tower looking up, it was tall. But when I've taken the elevator up in the tower and looked down, it seemed even taller. It's a firm from New Zealand that takes care of the security and does a lot of crazy activities in the tower. The company is named after its founder, A.J. Hackett, who was one of the pioneers of bungee jump. He was the guy who illegally jumped from the Eiffel Tower back in '87. Not the Eiffel Tower here in Macau, but the real one in Paris, and thereby introduced bungee jumping to the world. The company has handled more than 3.5 million jumps across the world, and as far as I know, they've never had an accident. So I knew perfectly well that I wouldn't die from this. The security here is much better than it was at a simple music festival in Denmark back in '91, where a tired crane operator might not get the crane completely up. My brain knew that there was no real danger, but my body didn't. Up in the tower, the disco music was pumping while I was being dressed in a special jacket and a harness, while I was introduced to which cord to pull once I was hanging upside down after jumping to get turned back around. When I came out to the area of the platform, I was placed in a special chair where I got the last equipment on. My feet were tied together and I could feel my heart starting to beat like crazy.
This is so scary.
One of the two guys in charge of my jump ties a small GoPro camera to my arm, but the whole thing was also filmed by 3 different cameras. He points at one of the cameras and holds up a sign and grins. The sign says, "I need new underwear." In the video recording, I can see myself trying to laugh before I put on a very serious face. It was almost time, and with a safety line on my back, I take tiny steps out on the platform, out on the scaffold. Here, the long bungee cord is secured to the harness by assistant number 2. The only thing I can remember thinking while I was waiting for him to finish is, I'm not doing this. I'm just not. How the hell did I end up here? Now I'm just half a meter from the edge, and with 15 tiny steps, I move further so my toes are just over the edge. I remember I'm scared falling down, even though that's technically the point of it all. Assistant number 2 has a tight grip in my harness, and suddenly I feel a hand from the grinning guy from before. I'm still thinking, I'm just not doing this. And then I can feel his hand, the human contact. I just want to hold on to this hand and never let go. I just wanted to give him a hug and make him say, "Don't worry, it was just a joke, you don't have to do this." But I know it's not gonna happen, and that I can't hesitate and have second thoughts right now. I'm on the edge with my arms out to each side. I'm hyperventilating and thinking, this is it when they start the countdown.
Here we go! 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, lean forward!
Wait a second. What you're about to hear now is something that I'm not proud of. I didn't think that I was going to scream, but I did. I screamed like I've never screamed before. I screamed until there were no more air in my lungs. Then I took a deep breath and screamed some more, because I was still falling. Can you now see the similarity to the Disney clip in the beginning? Okay, my scream was not quite as elegant as Maui's was in the movie. But then again, I'm not a demigod of the wind and...
Hero of men.
Sorry, what?
It's actually Maui, shapeshifter, demigod of the wind and sea, hero of men. I interrupted. From the top, hero of men. Go.
I'm not a shapeshifter, demigod of the wind and sea, and hero of men. I'm just a middle-aged demi-lunatic from Denmark who's visiting Macau.
I am still falling!
By the way, you can see the video of my jump if you go to the RadioVagabond.com or Radio Vagabond DK or my YouTube channel. They gave me a special t-shirt, one you can only get when you do the jump. This was my entrance ticket to get back to the tower to pick up my stuff that was in a locker. The rest of the day I was high on the adrenaline that was pumped out into my body. The rest of the day I could manage anything. Back in the tower, I spoke to the jump master, Tony O'Rourke from New Zealand. He's done bungee jumping thousands of times, but he doesn't do it that often anymore. He explains that even though the brain knows that it's not dangerous, the body doesn't. And that happens to him too. So sometimes when he's had a really bad morning and is tired and cranky when he goes to work, he does the jump himself. And then the rest of the day is great, because he's had this shot of adrenaline. Up in the tower, they had a wall with pictures of different celebrities who's been here. I see a picture of Kanye West and say to Tony, please tell me that Kanye screamed like a baby. To my great pleasure, Tony tells me that actually Kanye didn't jump. He was just visiting the tower. And that was almost better. Kanye was too scared to jump, but I wasn't. Jumping the world's highest bungee jump was just amazing. And since then, a lot of people have asked me if I would do it again, and without hesitation, I reply, absolutely not. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. We're almost at the end of this one, but let me share a little bit from the next episode of the Radio Vagabond podcast. But first, I'd like to mention the sponsor of this episode, Hotels25.com. You know that I personally like to stay like the locals. I use couchsurfing and Airbnb a lot, but every now and then I like to spoil myself and stay at a hotel. And then I always go to Hotels25.com. Because one of the cool things about Hotels25.com is that it searches all the top travel sites to find me the best deals on more than 430,000 hotels around the world. I save a lot of time not having to go through a lot of different booking sites to find out where I get the best deals. Hotels25 does that for me, so I end up not only saving a lot of time, but also saving a lot of money. Hotels25.com, it's best price guaranteed.
In next week's episode on the Radio Vagabond podcast.
And the aircon doesn't work, and the kettle doesn't work, and where do I put my trash? The thing about the trash... Oh, just you wait. It's a classic story. Okay, you need to read this, her response to the thing about the trash. Just read it as it's written there.
Taiwan, everyone have to be downstairs by 9. There's classic music, and you just put trash with everyone by the lane.
Did you get that?
Not really.
Me neither. And then she writes... Just read the line.
Okay. Anyway, I owe you a beer or two, bro.
That one kind of took me by surprise. I owe you a beer or two, bro. I just send a smiley face and write, a beer would be nice.
If you like this podcast, please subscribe in iTunes or the podcast app on your smartphone. You can see pictures, watch videos, and read much more on the radiovagabond.com. Pale can be reached for interviews and public speaking gigs on mail at theradiovagabond.com.
Dressed in my new t-shirt, I'm on my way to the next stop, Taiwan, and I'm so looking forward to that.
I am still falling!
My name is Palabo, and I gotta keep moving. See ya.